Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of January 4th through the 10th of 2021. All right, so we have essentially the third quarter moon here this week, which is really good to challenge ourselves, to really integrate, put in work, especially in the context of any shifts of awareness from last week's full moon. But the moon will be in Virgo for pretty much the whole week up until Friday, so it's a good week for doing work and challenging ourselves to improve and refine things anyways with this transit. Now on Monday, we do have Mercury over Pluto, so maybe a bit of a deep mind and communication. On Wednesday, Venus goes into Sagittarius, passing over the galactic center. So maybe some transformations with our values and our relationships, which then helps us feel a little bit more open-minded going into the later part of the week. Then Friday, the moon shifts signs, and we have a lot of contacts. We have the sun sextile Neptune. We have Mercury squaring Mars, Venus trining Mars, and Mercury over Saturn. So a lot going on that weekend here, Friday through Saturday in particular. So maybe just a good week there for maybe relationships, challenging ourselves a little bit there with those Venus aspects, maybe with communication, finding some constructive things there with Mercury. And then we have some sign changes on Sunday we'll talk about. So a lot going on. So let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting with Monday, January 4th. And again, we are using the visible sky called true sidereal astrology. This is very different from mainstream astrology. For example, Virgo is a very large constellation in the sky, but in all forms of mainstream, they cut Virgo into 30 degrees. So they shrink the constellation to make it 30 degrees, and that changes a lot. So if you are new to this channel, you will notice the signs are different. So definitely check out that link down below for more information on true sidereal astrology. All right, so let's go and do a quick recap because we do have a lot of sign changes, and it'll be nice to get some context of things. Coming into the week, we still have the Sun and Mercury in Sagittarius, and so it has been and it will continue to be this week a great time of focusing on the more abstract things of life, the meaning of life, our life purpose, what is it that we're spirited about or open-minded about that we can expand our horizons with. So great to expand both our mental and sometimes literal horizons, great for adventurousness as well with this placement. So while that's still going on coming into the week, Venus is still in more of the healing energies of Ophiuchus, and so our relationships are going through this healing coming into the week as it has been, but it's really transforming this week with Venus now over the galactic center. This is usually a transformation of our values, sometimes a transformation of our relationships, which then helps us feel more free-spirited afterwards, which will probably be about Thursday onward once Venus gets closer to Sagittarius. And Mars, of course, is still in Pisces, but this is the last week Mars will be in Pisces. Mars will be shifting into Aries very early next week. Give it some time early next week, but from Monday onwards, Mars will be closer to Aries than Pisces. So last week of this, what has been many months, we could say the whole second half of last year, about having to go with the flow more, having to work with uncertainty and be okay with that, and being more receptive in regards to where we're putting our action. So this is still a great week for doing that, but do know that this is wrapping up here with Mars leaving Pisces around the 10th into the 11th. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at each day of the week here. Most of the concentration of aspects, as you can see, are around this Friday, Saturday time period. But let's talk about this on Monday because Monday we do have the moon shifting into Virgo. And so it is going to be definitely a Virgo work week. And Virgo is about doing the work. It's about taking care of responsibilities. It's about improvement and refinement, things that require self-discipline. So great week for this all the way through Friday, up until Friday. But it's a good time to challenge ourselves anyways during this phase of the cycle. It's an easier phase in the first quarter. We're quite seasoned already in this month, right? We've had 3 weeks of this energy. So it is great to see that we're probably willing to put in work this week. We're probably willing to challenge ourselves. And so setting that intention to do that, to really build, to ground, to integrate, energy, especially in the context of anything that shifted with our perspective a week ago, early last week during the full moon. Could be a great way of working with the early part of the week just in general. But on Monday going into Tuesday, Mercury will be passing over deep Pluto, over that conjunction. And so in this case, Mercury, the planet of our minds and communication, is contacting Pluto, the ruler of the underworld. So a great time of seeing the depth and the truth and to excavate things, right? Not only mentally, but maybe also communicatively, right? So great time of seeing the depth, the truth, great for research, healing stuff, learning about that, uncovering hidden things, the occult. And in communications, more vulnerable, more open, more deeper, raw, authentic types of communications can also be great. So it's a little bit challenging to work with. It's a conjunction, so it is inherently neutral. So it really comes down to our intention. Are we willing to dive deep? Are we willing to communicate deeply? And in this way, it can be very constructive. It could be starting a whole new chapter, in fact, with just more empowerment with our mind, our perspective, and our communications, right? You could say our minds are transforming, our perspectives are transforming, especially in Sagittarius like this, and our communications are starting to transform. But it all starts from that self-empowerment, moving into anything that's uncomfortable, but we know we want to actually do, right? That could be self-empowering. Could be a very constructive way of working with both Monday and Tuesday. And then no major aspects up until that weekend time period. So again, Virgo will be playing the major role all week here, challenging herself towards self-discipline, improvement, and refinement. But of course, this Wednesday into Thursday time, I do want to mention that Venus will be starting to get closer to Sag. So there is something transforming collectively with our values. Anytime a planet passes over the galactic center like this, it's usually some transformation, and Venus does rule both Taurus and Libra, which is values and relationships, right? So this will be going through the transformation. Good to, allow for that. It's a good time of inwardness, right? The galactic center, it's a transformation process, very important to go within, to kind of be at peace, to listen. So good time of just kind of creating some space when it comes to our relationships, when it comes to our values, to see what is transforming and changing, and allowing for that process, or facilitating that process is great. And then we'll start to see slowly as we get into the later part of the week, the weekend, and especially into next week, that there is more of this free-spirited energy, which is the post-transformation, where we start to see the bigger picture of our values. We start to even value more bigger picture things like philosophy, spirituality, expanding our horizons, which is already the great time to focus on that with the sun here, but starting to value more of that free-spirited post-transformation energy with that shift around midweek. And then once we do get into the Friday time, the moon will go into Libra, so themes do shift around relationships in general. How are we relating with others? And this is all relationships, right? It's just relating in general. How are we relating with others? What is fair? What is just? What is right? Libra is all about bringing things back into balance, right? And that could be karmic, and it oftentimes does involve relationship. But personally, good time to just see if there's anything we can bring in a little bit more balance with into our own personal lives, so that the scales are evenly balanced. Now, around this time, we are going to feel not so much the sun sextile Neptune. I do want to mention it first, though. It's just there's this subtle energy about this part of the week where we might be a little bit more willing to go with the flow, at least in terms of what we're focused on. But when it comes to the Mercury stuff, which is, again, the communications, we do have this square up to Mars. So there might be a bit of, at least around Friday, probably start to ease up once we get to Saturday. But maybe this kind of, attachment to needing to be direct, to be assertive, maybe a strong fire behind our minds, strong needs behind our minds and our communications. So it is good to always practice non-attachment to that. But see if we can find some balance with it, because sometimes we might go overboard with Mars, but we might also go underboard. We might go under extreme with it as well. So if there's too much fire, too much personal needs, great to practice that non-attachment. But sometimes if there's not enough, if there isn't enough directness, if there isn't enough self-expression, or if there isn't enough independence in our own personal needs, then being conscious of that and incorporating that into it. So essentially just finding the balance between ego, needs, personal desires when it comes to how we're communicating, how we're relating with the Libra energy, and how we're just thinking about things in general. And if there is anything you do want to challenge yourself that might take some fire, some intention, some initiative with learning, with studying, with writing, with communication, when it's conscious, and intentional, it can be a very constructive part of the week for that stuff. But this really starts to ease up a little bit there once we start to get into Saturday, because Venus will be trining Mars. So that's usually a bit more synergy between how we're relating. There's a more balanced approach to the yin and yang aspects of ourself when it comes to interpersonal stuff. So we're usually willing to be a bit tactful, a bit receptive, but also direct and assertive, right? A good harmony between feminine and masculine in this case, both within us and usually in our interpersonal relationships, which is nice coming out of that square with Mars there. And on Saturday, the moon will be going into Scorpio. So Saturday and Sunday, great time for deep diving. On Sunday, the moon will be in Ophiuchus. So all weekend, great for deep diving and bringing things to the surface, maybe within. It's the moon, right? And also reflecting on the fact that, this is part of that that eclipse cycle. That previous cycle was really, and still in a sense is, about healing, but we're starting to wrap that up. And I think this weekend maybe reflect on the previous month in terms of what has transformed, what has been healed perhaps, or what inner work have you done, or what deeper values are you more aware of, because that's really really was the emblem of this lunar cycle. All right, and then Mercury over Saturn going from Saturday into Sunday. I think a great time of using our minds in a way that's constructive. So if there's anything productive you want to do over the weekend, great to channel that, sort of mental energy and communicative energy, but just feeling a bit grounded probably mentally and communicatively. There's a lot going on with Mercury this week. The early part of the week, it was much more about transformation and depth and truth. This later part of the week about, that fire energy and finding balance with that. And then at the very end about earth energy and working with that. So maybe a new chapter with the more grounded and disciplined ways of thinking about things that's balanced, but it's a conjunction. So it should be easy to do. Seeing how things do take time, patience, discipline, responsibility that we can channel our mind and our communications into. All right, everyone, and I do want to mention that, around this time, going into the 10th, Mercury will be finishing up Sagittarius and going into Capricorn. So going into next week, there is a lot more of that grounding kind of energy with our mind. He will pass over Jupiter as well, but, all these planets in Capricorn, it's really about seeing the long road, the patient road, and discipline, and anything we can think in that manner, I think facilitates this transit. All right, then of course Mars, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to having Mars go into Aries, much more comfortable placement starting next week, which is a little bit more clarity in terms of where we're putting our action, and a little bit more assertiveness and directness with Mars in fiery Aries. And most of the big picture stuff, I'll make another video on 2021, but we do want to give it some time for Neptune to go into Pisces. Neptune's been in Aquarius. So it's been a lot of uncertainty about the future. This has been, for about the past 10, 11 years. But Neptune going into Pisces, much more comfortable energy in terms of maybe more clarity about where things are headed in the future from around March into April with that transit. All right. But anyways, everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button if you haven't yet. If you're not yet subscribed, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. And I'll see you all next time for the next astrology update. Take care.